Hello there, Geek Collective, and welcome to Geeks Plus. We are here with another episode of Let's Talk Comics, the first one under our new brand, the first one under the banner of Geeks Plus. And what other way are we going to kick off our Let's Talk Comics, the first one of a new show, by talking to the person we talked to the first time under Comics in the Cross previously, by bringing back in Louis Southard. Louis, thank you for joining us again on the show. Such a pleasure.
So much.
Such a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much for having me back. I was there at the birth of Comics in the Cross. I'm there at the rebirth with your new platform. Like, it is wild. It's been, I don't know how many years it's been that we've been doing these chats.
Yeah, that's been about 5 years, because we talked to you mid to late 2020, I think, was the first time we spoke with you, so it's been nearly 5 years, close to it, which is insane to think about.
We've been through an entire we've been through many global crises since then.
Yes.
See, look, we're still on the other side.
Absolutely, we have made it through so many. At this point, it's just, they just keep rolling past us at this point. But it's such a pleasure to have you back. For anyone who's watching that doesn't know, Louis Southard is, of course, an amazing comics writer, creative genius of our times, you know. Hey, you started that, I'm keeping going with it.
I've been shocked with how that has been a blessing and a curse.
It has literally caught on as like a tagline for you. It really has.
Yeah, I'm embarrassed to say. I remember at a convention that I'm going to later this year, when they did their promo, they're like, "We're lucky to have the creative genius of a generation himself, Louis Southard, come to our convention." And I was just like, okay, like I'll rock with that. But yeah, that is unfortunately my tagline on everything. You go on, but I counteract it, because on social media I'll do creative genius of a generation and put a little bracket humble next to it, just so you know. And
so
I'm just like anyone else.
I mean, that's how it works. And to know that you're humble, you just have to tell people. Telling people you're humble always works. Absolutely.
Yeah. Usually the mark of a good person is someone who tells you how good and sweet they are at all times.
Absolutely, that never backfires.
But I will say, for anyone listening to me on the show for the very first time, I'm Louis Southard. I am a comic book writer. I've written Midnight Western Theater, which I'm hoping to talk with you today about. The Blackout Bombshell from Sumerian Comics. I've done Comics Are Dying, the comic, with over 100 artists and creators, which was last year's Zoop campaign. What else? Flash Gordon Quarterly. I am a proud member of the Flash Gordon mythos now from Mad Cave Studios. And a bunch of other things that I'm very I've happily written in the past.
Yeah, you're getting quite a little back catalogue of stuff that you've worked on now. Like, we've gone many days from the days of Villain Seeking Heroes just coming out to the amount of stuff that you've covered in the last 5 years. It's an impressive back catalogue, and I'll put a little thing up in the corner if you want to go check out any of our previous videos with Louis we've talked about a number of the stuff that he's worked on. So go ahead and check that out. And yeah, I think that playlist is getting quite a few videos in it at this point. But today, like you said, we're here to talk Midnight Western Theater, which I don't think you can see. It is just out of frame. One of the comics I've got up on my wall it's because I've had to crop the picture. It's usually in shot. Actually,
I can't believe you. I've never forgiven you ever since you took down the shrine that you made with all of your signed editions and your figurines and candles and everything.
I know. I had to make room. I had to make a little bit of room. It's just, I'm sorry. But
I will consider forgiving you.
I appreciate it. But I do have a signed copy of Midnight Western Theater #1 that Louis was gracious enough to bless us with up on my wall. So that is a treasured possession, and it's a pleasure to get to talk to you about Midnight Western Theater, because it's been a while since we've talked about it. I think we talked about it. I don't think the full first arc had even kind of finished coming out yet, so we couldn't even dive into it totally. So I'm excited to talk about it a little bit today.
Well, here I'll give you the quick sales pitch for this new edition that we're trying to make.
Yeah, let's hear it.
So
Let's hear it.
for so for our second year with Zoop, the first year we did such a wonderful job, and it was such an amazing collaborative process with Zoop founders Jordan Plosky and Eric Moss that they were very happy enough to be like, let's do another thing. So I figured, what would I like to do next? And I had a couple options. But I figured I would do something that I was always told was impossible, something I'd been fighting for many years with its former publisher, and that was to make a collected edition, a trade paperback featuring, for this special edition, we're featuring all 10 issues of the original Midnight Run. So this includes Midnight Western Theater Volume 1 and Midnight Western Theater Witch Trial, which is the prequel sequel to the first run. So that's 10 issues, and we're also filling it up with tons of supplementary content. So we've got unreleased variant covers, we've got concept art, we've got a promotional cosplay photo shoot that went unused, and it's going to be full of extra information like about the TV show adaptation, about some of the inspirations behind the characters, some unused art as well. So I think if you are a long-time fan of the book, or if you're a new time reader, this is the good jumping on point. But you're asking yourself, what the heck is this thing even about? And I would say it is a weird Western, a horrific, spooky tale of a young woman named Hortensia Thomas, aka the Woman in Black, as she's become an adventurer, an outlaw even, in this supernatural frontier where she confronts evils and threats, either all too human or otherworldly. In each volume, she's accompanied by different casts of characters, all of which are connected to this other side of this deep, dark world. So in Volume 1, we have Alexander Wortham, the reluctant vampire, her whiny sidekick and occasional love interest. And in the second volume, we flip the dynamic completely by having her with her sassy, let's say, alternative surrogate foster mother, Sarah Bishop, the Wild West Witch. So yeah, it is all full of that fun. They fight evils like werewolves, outlaw gangs. They fight an incredible Hulk-like monster. They fight a dog cult. They fight demons from all over. And yeah, it's all wrapped up in this nice little Wild West bow.
Boom. There you go, folks. That is your flash blurb about Midnight Western Theatre, and it is absolutely an awesome series. It's been a pleasure. Like, I was rereading it, obviously prepping for the interview, and it's like, this is such a good book. It really is. Like, and I'm not saying that to blow smoke up Lewis's ass because he's here on the show or anything like that. And, he pays me completely separately from all that sort of stuff. But but 100%.
I would pay you for the therapy session.
That'd be appreciated. But all the therapy after that dog cult. The trauma from that issue. But yeah, this is an absolutely phenomenal series. And like you said, this is a book that came out before, had a previous publisher and everything like that. So this is an amazing accomplishment to do a big, massive re-release from this. You've went all in on this. Like you said, this is like Midnight Western Theatre. This is the Witch Trial prequel. This is like all a bunch of stuff that you were never able to use previously, and you're basically using this opportunity to give it to everyone. The stuff that was never able to be given before. Here's everything.
I would say that when I go to conventions, Midnight Western Theater is always it's always a bestseller at my tables. And there is this kind of like having to get full sets. A lot of people, they want to read the whole story, right?
Mm-hmm.
So most of the time people will buy the entire individual floppy run, So
Yeah.
if you have 1 to 5, they'll buy 1 to 5. But there is this part of you that your brain is just like, I just want to hand them one book.
Yeah, you just want to be, here's the story.
Exactly. So like I've always wanted that, and it was such a struggle with its former place due to a slew of reasons behind the scenes, not in reference to the book itself, but with what was going on with them and the resources I'm guessing that they had or didn't have. So that became a big difficulty. So with this one, I really just want to be able to just hand someone that full. This is it. This is the book. This is the story, and I just love it to death. It's technically my first comic that was ever published in the
Mm-hmm.
direct market. So to go back to it, especially with like a brand new cover that we've made especially for this collected edition by my possibly one of the greatest illustrators working today, Julianne Griep. She is one of the most talented people I've ever met, and the fact that I get to work with her is a blessing. And she was gracious enough to come back and do this cover. She did all the covers for Midnight Western Theater Witch Trial. And also, it's been a real pleasure to be reconnecting with the teams to help make these books in the first place, with artists David Hahn and Butch Mappa, colorists Ryan Cody and Sean Peacock, and letterer Buddy Boron, and even the original series artist or cover artist Kalman Androsovsky. Like it's been a nice little throwback, so to speak,
Yeah.
and it's been nice. And I've waited years to even get the opportunity to make this a real thing, and this is quite possibly the only and closest way for me to do that. And I am
Yeah.
really hoping anyone and everyone can extend as much support as possible so we can make this a reality. I think that would be such a cool thing.
Absolutely. And this, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the first like collected edition of Midnight Western Theater. Did it ever get like a trade published when it first came out? Like the first
I
five?
mentioned this. I said this already, but like I was always told that they would not make one,
Mm.
for one reason or another. I can't say the reasons why
Yeah.
wholeheartedly, but I could say that there were a lot of problems that they never made one for volume 1 or 2 or whatever.
Which
I
is
don't even know.
insane because I mean, I remember when we talked to you first when Midnight Western Theatre was coming out, you gave us a little preview of the stuff that was coming and we got to talk about it. By the time we got to talking about it, though, issue 1 had dropped, and all I was seeing on my social media was praise for this book. Like, all of a
I am
sudden, like, you were getting talked about everywhere. Like, Midnight Western Theatre was a smash hit. It had caught on with everyone. So the prospect of this book was not, like, just to give context to people who might not have heard or might not know about the book, like, this was a massive, like, news thing on a lot of the comic sites that were talking about it, and to say that that book wasn't, no, we're probably not going to make it into a trade. It's like, this is the book that you make a trade, one that's this big of a hit, because you want to make money. And if the book's this popular, we make multiple versions so we can make more money. Like, just from a business standpoint, like, surely that makes sense. So to say, like, no, it's like,
I'm glad you're here because you could say those things.
yeah, like speaking completely, like, no, this was like, because I remember saying to you, like, because we talked to you before Midnight Western Theatre came out, we're in the villain seeking hero era. So to bring you back on for like Midnight Western Theatre was so bizarre because it's like you were just starting out and like your name was everywhere, like all these sites talking about it, and it's like it was crazy. Like it was such a hit. I mean, we even talked about it. There was a TV deal. There was all this stuff going on. Like this was your first published book.
Yeah, well, I'm the creative genius of a generation for a reason, Croft.
Apparently, because like this is your first published, like that doesn't happen. First published books don't get TV deals. Not when the first issue is the only issue out. You know what I mean?
Well, no, to be fair, I'll say this. That didn't happen until, let's say, it happened in 2022. So it'd been a few months after it wrapped up. I could say for certain that issue 5 had came out
Okay.
a few months before that was done. So it was all done. It was done even before all that. But yeah, no, even the sequel, like the sequel is Volume 1 was more of an anthology approach, one and done issues, while
Mhm.
Volume 2 was a more linear tale. I would say that Volume 1 definitely got more overall attention, while
Yeah.
Volume 2 got like some really like cool people supporting it. Patton Oswalt was kind enough to read it
Yeah,
and give
seen
a quote.
a quote on it from Patton Oswalt, which is like pretty amazing.
Fantastic Four writer Ryan North, Superman artist Lanil Yu, like he praised the book. Like a lot of people came out and supported that book. So I was very proud. I think as the creator of it, I'm more proud of Volume 2 than I am of Volume 1. I still think both are, you know, like this is a matter of personal preference. I'm not saying like I think one is superior to the other one, but I like both for different reasons. It's like asking a
Yeah.
parent which child do you love more. And it's like, well, no, I just like different aspects of all these different things. But yeah, no, it was insane when that all happened, especially compared to Villain Seeking Hero, which was canceled before, like literally a week or two before it was supposed to come
Yeah.
out. But that was because of the company's collapse, Action Lab Entertainment's collapse due to the pandemic.
Mhm.
So that was a nightmare of a freshman book. But I'm gonna shut myself out and say that I'm re-releasing all the issues on Substack. So
Yeah, absolutely.
if you want to read that first ever book, 18 issues of it, I'm doing weekly uploads at Lutopia on Substack. That's my blog.
That is
But with the
amazing. I love that name, Lutopia. You know what, as
yeah,
well,
and
folks? I will get the link for that from Lewis and I'll stick it down below the video right now. And we'll make sure if you want to go and check out Villain Seeking Hero, which, by the way, I will 100% shout out. I still to this day love that book. It was such a fun book. Um,
I love it too. I think it's one of the best things. Oh, not the yeah, it is one of the best things I ever wrote. It's the first thing I ever wrote. It's one of the most fun. I am so upset to this day that it's never been it was never published or never released fully. It'll maybe one day it'll have its time in the sun,
the Zoop
but I
2026 campaign.
yeah, right. I all ones of people will come out to support that one. So yeah, but that's the thing. Anyone who's ever read it has always liked it and has always like reached out to me to be like, I love this character. This character's great. I've gotten many Skull Commander fans. So
Skull Commander's a legend. I love him so much. Such
yeah,
a good
yeah.
character.
So yeah, that one's a fun one. So if you want to know what the heck we're talking about, then go check out
Yeah,
that
go check
Substack.
it. Link down
It's
below, folks, for that.
all free too. You don't have to pay me money for that. You'll just get to enjoy it.
I mean, there you go. Free comic. Like, if you like comics, you can't resist that, surely.
But I would say that when Midnight Western Theater #1 came out, that was a big shock in a lot of ways. We I don't know. It just was like I think because the kind of comics industry was in a lull for a bit, and that was when things were firing up
Yeah,
again.
things were starting up
It,
again.
yeah, it was just like the perfect storm in that kind of way, and it very much reinforced that like, oh, I can do this. This can be something I could keep doing in the future. I was also a little salty because it was like Midnight Western Theater was the back burner project that I did not have like not that I didn't have faith in it, but it didn't preoccupy my full attention. And sure enough, that would be the thing that would launch my career.
Of course.
So talk about planning, you know, you nothing in life goes as you think it would.
No.
But even I don't know if I've ever said this, but like I very much try to write a lot of my books as if they're in the same universe.
Hmm.
And I play into the rules that like if I put a rule down or like a date or something in one book, I very much try to apply that to all books. Like one thing that I put was like Villain Seeking Hero, like all ghosts are bedsheet ghosts. So it's like, okay, well, I got to put a mental note down that if I ever have a ghost pop up in a different book that's stealthily set up in this universe, and bam, then you have to have a
All I can,
ghost pop up
all I can see
as
now
eventually.
is the cover for, oh, what was it? Horrific Tales or Horrifying Tales, like the Halloween book that you did, has got
Yeah,
a bedsheet goes right on the front cover. That I just,
yeah, Louis Southard's terrifying tales that you should keep to yourself.
that's it. That's it. Absolutely
That was
brilliant.
for that was for Zest World. That one, which rest in peace, by the way.
You've had a bit
I
of luck with these publishers and getting your comics out there, I must say, Lewis.
Ella, like Cross, I gotta say, like with I've had many. I once had like I guess an editor in chief of one very respected news website. We were sat down, and then she was like, "You've really had a rough go, haven't you?" And I was like, "You don't know the half of it, because it's just been that." Yeah, but I was part of the Zest World launch, which was like a Webtoons competitor, and Louis Southard's Terrifying Tales That You Should Keep to Yourself was the thing I made specifically for that. It was a collection of 5 short stories. One was about a little girl and a robot protector in the apocalypse. One was about a guy trying to seduce a lady on the train. Uh, one was about a guy that a Seussian tale of a guy bored in his house until he meets a fun, fantastical mouse. Uh, and then about a skeleton with an office job. That was the 4th one, and the last one was a demon knight ghost has to venture into a cave for unknown reasons, only to be confronted by a presence that can only exist in the darkness of said cave. So yeah, that's a little taste of that for you. Clearly, I love a little bit of horror.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, but yeah, you really have had a rough go of it though. Like getting your books out there, like you really have. Like, because first of all, the first one was Villain Seeking Hero and the Action Lab stuff falling through, and you didn't even get the book printed before all of that collapsed. All the stuff that came up with Midnight Western Theatre, which is why we're doing the re-release. The Zest World just fell apart. You know, it's like it's yeah, you've really had a bit of a rough time with some of these.
Yeah, here's a fun one. When I was working with Sumerian Comics, my book, The Blackout Bombshell, a psychedelic comedy noir, that was their last um, independent creator-owned book that they picked up right when they were transitioning into licensed titles only. So that was just like, oh, we're gonna focus on these licensed titles, and then your thing will just come out as well. So that was a nightmare. And then after that, I guess after that, it's just been Mad Cave, but that was for Flash Gordon.
I was going to say
And
though,
I would say,
you've had a fair bit of success post all of that though, thankfully. Because like obviously you said, like Villain Seeking Hero, you're releasing out in Substack just as a way to get the book out there to people, which we're grateful for because the book does deserve to see the light of day in some shape and form. I'd love to see a printed version someday, but I know I'm like alone on the hill for Villain Seeking Hero, but I'm not going to stop waving the flag. It's like I love it.
I
Um,
would love to continue it because it ended on a cliffhanger. So I
yeah.
would I would immediately jump right back into that book any day. If someone wanted to come up to me with $1 billion and was like, "Keep going," then I'd be like, "Okay." But I get well. That's exactly why I'm continuing this collaboration with Zoop, because
Yeah,
all these bad
Zoop's
experiences.
Zoop's been a world changer for you. Because like
Yeah,
obviously
all
you
these
had the
bad
successful
experiences.
one last year, and now you've got this coming out. Sorry, I keep cutting you off there, but like you had the successful, Comics Are Dying, the comic last year, which we talked a little bit about last time you were on, which was a massive hit and
Yeah, that was a big one.
an insane undertaking from you. Went, hey, I'm going to write a comic book about the history of comics, and I'm going to work with 100 artists on the history of comics, and there's going to be different art styles, different genres, different everything throughout throughout the whole book. And lo and behold, it was a success. When your stuff's allowed to just be out there, apparently it's successful.
Yeah, well, yeah, that one was a really wonderful just fulfilling creative experience. Working with all those people and making that book, I am probably the most proud of that book. I think my body has never quite forgiven me for undertaking, like, being the curator of said book, because it took 3 months of my life to make that thing, and it was very lots of sleepless nights. But I'm very proud of the end result for that, and it was very big hit. Everyone who read it, they loved it. It's been a very big crowd pleaser, and I'm so thankful that we got to make it. I was told by one person that it was impossible to make, because I tried at first selling it to some publishers to try to get it printed in the direct market, and one person was like, "You could never make this comic in a billion years. It's too difficult, and it's too much of a legal hassle." So like with all naysayers, I just ignore them and keep keep trekking forward. And sure enough, we did it, and it was great. I got to meet so many people. I got to work with so many great people, and it was, as a writer, it was just so fun to do different styles and storytelling, and with each page, literally each page had to be a different comic with a different set of characters and a different vibe and tone, and it was even just evoking like what we are referencing in terms of comics history. So, creatively, professionally, it was just like a comics masterclass of an experience, and I'm very thankful for that. And then yeah. So between Zoop and Mad Cave, which I only have lovely things to say, they are probably one of the best independent publishers working as of today. That was a really awesome project. Making the first multiversal Flash Gordon story, which was a Western, because when they called me in, they were like, "You're the cowboy guy. You could do a cowboy universe." And I was just like, yeah, I'll do it.
That was the first thing I said to you when you told us that you were going to be doing that, and I says, like, you really have just been typecast now, haven't you? You're just the cowboy dude.
I don't want to be the cowboy dude. I am. I don't even like westerns that much, if I'm being honest.
Like, you're the one who came up with Gothic Cowboys. You just need to roll with it now.
I wish it would have. If only that TV show would have happened, then I would have proudly been the goth cowboy guy until I passed away at that point. But yeah, no, like, I don't know, like, you never really think of being typecast at any point, but you don't know other people's perspective of like who you're supposed to be, right? So I never in a billion years was I going to expect that they'd be like, "Oh, this guy loves cowboys more than anything, so he's forever the cowboy guy." Well, which is why I so desperately try to make different stuff. That's so.
Which is so funny, because your stuff is so like eclectic. It's such a variety of stuff that you've written and you've created and you've put out there. It just so happens the book that was like published under a publisher that went out to comic stores in the normal typical way was the cowboy story. So that's what everyone automatically now associates you with.
Yeah, and then what's your first work for hire and like a known IP thing? Don't worry, it's Cowboys.
Don't worry, you're doing Flash Gordon. Oh, fantastic. It's a multiverse one. Great, I can do this random story for Flash Gordon. You're doing the cowboy story.
I pitched other versions. I don't know if we talked about this last time, but I pitched like what was it? It was the best one I pitched was, or at least I thought, was a funny animal version.
Oh yeah.
To do like what was it? It was gonna be like Princess Orca. I remember that one, Ming's daughter. It was Mink the Merciless. Dr. Ham Zarkov, so he would have been a pig. Dale Aardvark for Dale Arden, and I forget the Flash Gordon one. I forget what it was. I think Fish Gordon. I think that was it. But I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you now. But yeah, that was a funny circumstance. But yeah, no, I guess all roads lead back to Midnight Western Theater, now on Zoop, that desperately needs your help and support to become a real thing.
Absolutely. And one of the reasons we're shouting out Comics Are Dying the Comic is actually because there's another opportunity to actually pick that up. if you missed the first thing on Zoop, I went and checked out the page for Midnight Western Theatre, and there was a bundle of both the books available from Zoop, which is 100%, because I think that was one of the things I said to you was I totally didn't have the money to get in the campaign when it was running, and is there another way to get it? And I'm like, oh, it's available with Midnight Western Theatre. Like, well, I'm definitely getting them both now. I've got a chance to get both the books like in one go. Like, fantastic, I can do this. So
No,
just
this
want to shoot
is
out
quite
there.
possibly. This
Yeah,
is quite possibly the last chance to get Comics Are Dying. And what better way to do that than pair it with Midnight Western Theatre?
absolutely. Which I'm excited to get an actual collected volume of that as well. Hey there, Geek Collective. Did you know that Geeks Plus is also on Patreon? For as little as just $2 a month, you can also support us over on Patreon and get early access to all of our YouTube videos from Geeks Plus Comics, Geeks Plus Tabletop, and Geeks Plus Gaming, as well as a whole bunch of exclusive content specifically for our supporters over on Patreon, and early access to all the behind the scenes and ongoings with the company. So if you would like to check out all of that stuff and help support what we do here at Geeks Plus, we would greatly appreciate heading over to patreon.com/geeksplusmedia and supporting us over there. But that's all from me from now. You all have a good day, and let's get back into your video. So to talk just a little bit more about Midnight Western Theatre, because we've kind of gone a little bit through your history in comics now for anyone who's new to the show and hasn't been here for the last 5 years to hear all the ins and outs and stories. Where did the inspiration come from for Midnight Western Theatre? Yes, I'm making you retell the Gothic Cowboys story.
No, I know. It's just it's just me when I think about it. It's just such a dumb story because it's just I was working on Villain Seeking Hero, which was a very continuity driven book, and I really wanted to have some sort of back burner project which was a lot looser with its storytelling, and I wasn't quite sure what to make. But I say this every time. Westworld, which was big at the time, I saw the new episode of that. I was at a Starbucks staring at the blank page, all writer's dread, and I was listening to The Cure, Disintegration, the song, not the album. And I was just sat there, and then my brain just goes, Gothic Cowboys, never seen that before. And I remember I packed up all my things, and I ran back to my apartment, and I drew Hortensia and Alexander for the first time. And I knew that David Hahn, who was an artist that worked on a one-shot of Villain Seeking Hero, I knew he loved drawing goth people. So I sent him an email basically with the terrible drawing I drew, and like basically Goth Cowboys ? And then he's like, "Yeah, I'll draw that."
I love it. Send it the awful pictures. Make it good.
Pretty much. And then that's where we kicked it up, and we worked on that for a while. But in terms of inspirations, I didn't really have, like I said, I'm not a fan of Westerns, so I didn't have any dead set, like, oh, I'm inspired by Good, the Bad, and the Ugly and stuff like that. But I was more, like, the biggest thing I wanted to do with that original book, Volume 1, was tell stories of a duo where there is, based for all intents and purposes, a human character and a super powerful character. And they work together, but as they go on their adventures, whoever they come across would be more afraid of the human character than they would be the super powerful character.
Yeah.
And I like that dynamic a lot. So that was the whole inception behind Hortensia and Alexander. Like, I've said this in interviews before, but like, I would hang out with Alexander, like, because even though he's a vampire, he never wanted to be a vampire.
He's like the most laid back dude ever. He's so chilled and reserved and calm and kind of carries himself. He's very much a gentleman sort of character, and it's him playing off of Hortensia is just such a cool dynamic. The two of them are such great characters.
I would say he's like the worst guy you would want to work with if you're a Hortensia, because
I
I wouldn't say he's chill at all. I think he's very like pompous and he's pompous and arrogant, and he is like he is just a gentleman that we've dropped
Yeah,
into like a battlefield.
I think chill's the wrong word. I was trying to think of that kind of like reserved, kind of pompous attitude of like where he like whereas Hortensia's very very raw and lets her anger flow and just kind of lets her emotions out in the moment. Like he's very reserved with a lot of that, but he does whine and bitch a lot as well at the same time.
I love Hortensia. I am her creator, but I would not hang out with her any day because like I don't think she is a likable person. I don't think, and there are reasons as to why. Like I think she's a very traumatized character, and her reclamation of that has led to her becoming a very, I would say she's well more reserved than he is, but like she's a very cold, insular person. She's not heartless, but she is very like, if there's a job to do, then
Mhm.
it will be done type attitude. So like, and that without hesitation, she makes very, very, very like hard decisions without a second thought,
Yeah.
which leads to some of the other characters not really knowing, her alignment on, let's say, the moral chart. So yeah, so like, but that's the thing. I would say the theme of Volume One was having these two characters who are connected in the sense of they are both monsters. Because Hortensia is undead. That's not a spoiler. So they're both monsters. They were both forced to be monsters, and yet the two of them have sort of come together so they can help each other be the best, or at least better versions of themselves as possible.
Yeah.
And I think that creates a fun dynamic. But then it's like, well, why does she have this guy around? Well, it so happens that given enough time, then this guy will just turn into a murder machine, and then I would say that's a pretty useful tactic to have on the battlefield of like, oh yeah, this guy will just beast out and
Yeah.
do what he has to do.
Yeah, because you see that with Alexander as well. There are moments where he lets loose and lets out the monster inside, essentially, and it's like, yeah, I can see why she keeps him on a leash just to let him go every so often. But it's like it's a really interesting dynamic between them. It's such a great relationship between them, and just how they play off of each other. In my head, and it's like I don't know if it comes across like this. I feel my words are getting all muddled up tonight, but it very much feels to me like I would describe it almost like a western like it's like Red Dead Redemption meets like Supernatural for the first volume, because like the two of them just walk into these like supernatural situations. You've got the kind of buddy sort of drama with them bouncing off of each other and dialoguing with each other, which is absolutely brilliant. They play off each other so well. And then they walk into whatever chaos they're walking into, and no matter how calm they try to handle the situation, whether they go in like, okay, we're just going to deal with this and it's going to be okay, or they go in, yeah, we're going in guns blazing, it always ends up in this monstrous fight anyway, because that's just what always happens with them. And it's like it's such a fun ride along dynamic. Like my mind keep constantly going back to the Cult of the Dog, like that. Like just even just the banter between them at the start of that issue as they're walking up to like the church and stuff, and it's like just the back and forth where it's like Alexander just really doesn't want to be there, and like it's like we're not, well, at least we're both agreed we're not going in there. She's like, oh yeah, we're going in there. Like, wait, what? Why are we going in there?
I think my favorite line of dialogue, I think from time to time from that specific issue, is Hortensia going like, "Do you trust me?" And he just goes, "I'm not sure." And then it's just funny because at that point they've been working together for so long. Then it's like,
Yeah,
yeah, he still hasn't made up his mind yet.
no, it's like he's still like I don't know. It's like you could know what you're doing, or we could be winging this. I don't know. Like I don't know if I trust this.
I would say, like, if you know, like, your Fallout, there's the idiot savant perk, and I think Hortensia has that to some degree of just like,
Yes.
especially after you read Volume 2, learning like the climax of that is just like Hortensia is just like, okay, I'm gonna go fight this uber powerful demon lord from hell. And then it's even one character's like, yeah, but you'll die. Like, you are just a person. And she's like, yeah, okay, bye. And then she just goes and does. Like I said, if it has to be done, it will be done. I'll go do it. And yeah, so it has. Yeah, she just. I can't say she's a character that. She is thoughtful, but she does not think things through. There's one whole issue in issue 4 of the original run where her and Alexander have a conflict because they both severely disagree on how to handle a monster, and that leads to the two of them kind of parting ways for a bit because it's all kind of come to a head of like her pseudo recklessness. But I say thoughtful as well because issue 5 is the issue where Hortensia and Alexander meet for the first time, and that's a very very different situation that I don't think she would often allow herself to be in.
No, absolutely. And I think that last issue of the first volume is a very intriguing one to wrap up the first story arc, the first kind of volume with that is a really interesting decision because it really does, like, after seeing them together in so many situations and learning how they came together and how they've formed their partnership essentially, it also opens the door because there's still so much story to be told there.
Shall we do the thing? I wanted to tell you. Hopefully, you'd be the first podcast I'll talk about this with. But I had so many ideas because Volume 2 was a linear story. It was a prequel story, and it was rather serious, especially with the subject matter. A lot of it deals with like the concept of grooming and dealing with like having conflict with your parents and kind of the threats of people who would take advantage of your traumas for their own personal benefit. And that's a big thing of Volume 2. And I was like, okay, well, that's completely different than Volume 1. I should probably go back and do some good old Alexander and Hortensia's stories. And I never got to, but I'll tell you some of the ideas I had.
Yeah, I'd love to hear them.
I was building up to a finale story because I sprinkled in. I was setting something up, and I shan't say what because maybe one day I'll do it. You never know. But I was setting a lot of stuff up, but I was like, I can't just jump right into the finale. So I was like, I was gonna do something called Midnight Western Theater: The Intermissions, which was doing more anthology tales of them. And it was there was one where it was going to be told from the perspective of like a woman on a train, and they're going somewhere, but they don't know when, and they don't know like where they're going exactly. All they know is that the train will get there soon, but there's something not quite right. And then the woman she notices something's wrong in the sense of she sees Hortensia and Alexander, and she's like, they did not board the train. What's going on? And then it would have turned out that it was a literal ghost train that they were on, and they were trying to like, told from this ghost perspective, it was her watching them trying to figure out how to let the spirits move on. So
that was a really cool concept. I like that.
There was one where I gotta get right to this one. This one I really wanted to. Do you watch Rick and Morty at all, or have you ever seen it?
Yeah.
You know the concept of like for every 10 Rick adventures, Morty gets one adventure?
Yeah.
That's what I was kind of going for, where like Alexander has earned his Alexander adventure.
Oh, that's amazing.
And she's like, we will do whatever you want to do. Like if there is something you want to do, let's go do it. And Alexander's lore was that he was like the son of a Revolutionary War era aristocrat who was like forced to go join the revolutionary forces, and then he was a terrible soldier. Along the way, he is left for dead basically, and then rescued by a woman who turns out to be a vampire, and she's the one who turns him into one when she was trying to feed on him. So I like the idea that like, and since then he's just been kind of like living in hiding until Hortensia sort of discovers him and helps him try to reintegrate with society. And I love the idea of an adventure where he's just like, I want to get my house back. Like I was meant to inherit like this big estate and I want to go get it back. And she's just like, okay, let's go do that then. So they go to his house, which has been inherited by like his like grand nieces and nephews who don't know who he is, so he pretends to be like Alexander Wortham Jr. or the Third or something like that. And the idea was there was going to be nothing supernatural about it. It was just going to be them being weirded out and harassed by his descendants, basically. And like the family is just too much to deal with that they just give up on taking the house back completely because they just don't want to deal with any of their weirdness. And I thought that was going to be a really fun, and like Alexander would have just kept like getting more and more frustrated, and Hortensia is just like, I'm staying out of this. You wanted to do this. I am not saying anything. He's like, I'll figure it out. So yeah, no, but then they lose. That was going to be the first time they ever lost, which was just to a bunch of regular,
That is
a bunch
awesome.
of normal humans, but they're just incredibly out of touch, bizarro rich people, and no one, even in today's modern world, we don't quite know how to deal with them.
Yeah, that is an amazing idea for a story, and that's completely an Alexander adventure. He'd want to go and do something so, like they're monster hunters, and like I want to do something mundane, like that's my house. I want to go get it back. Like, okay, let's get it. And that being the first time they like lose, it's like they just give up on the house eventually. Like, yeah, that makes sense. That's perfect. That would be such a good story.
And then the last one that never got made, which I'll reveal, which was they must infiltrate a vampire ball so they could kill all the vampires. But when they get there, Alexander's having a thrill because he's finally with people who are like him. So then it's almost like all these stories kind of like have a very human element, and the idea was basically Alexander's like, I don't want to hang out with Hortensia, I want to hang out with my new cool friends over here who we all have all this stuff in common. But then like the two of them have to make up and be like, all right, let's be friends again, let's get back to normal, and then they just celebrate their reunion by killing everyone at the masquerade ball.
Ah, that'd have been so cool. I think because there's such great storytelling potential for the two of them as a duo, just in like an anthology series like that. Just seeing these like one-off adventures and these different things, and honestly, those are some really great concepts for it. I absolutely love those.
It was it's a fun world. It's a fun world, and you can kind of do anything with it. Which I very much am grateful for what we got, and I'm hoping that with this new collected edition, we'll get to make some new fans and get to make some old fans happy. But never say never. I'll say that with any project. I feel like anything can kind of come back at any point. It's not like I'm dead yet. So like,
well, that's one of the things I was going
just
to ask about this was like, is this like the last hurrah for Midnight Western Theatre, or is this just it's just a breather? Maybe it'll come back at some point. Or is there active stuff in your head of like, I want to actively make this happen at some point in the future?
I've said this before on the show in reference to Villain Seeking Hero, because I remember something very similar. Like with comics, the comic book industry, I feel like it is a detriment to anyone to kind of cling on to one idea for very long.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you were well said with that. I think this is supposed to be a nice last hurrah type thing of one big collected edition. There's no big cliffhanger. It's all pretty, like, it kind of loops in on itself, which is very cool and unintentional. But like, it's a perfectly like satisfying read. You won't be left hanging. Like if that aforementioned billionaire wants to come and give me all the money to keep making them, then that's a different story. But I would say that I do what I always do, which is try to focus on the next thing and You know,
Yeah.
if an opportunity were to arise, I wouldn't exactly say no, but there's nothing on the docket yet, really.
Yeah. And that makes sense. Like, I like that kind of having it is kind of left open ended of like if something does come up, it does. But if this is a last hurrah for Midnight Western Theatre, it's a really good way for it to go out, I think. Seeing all 10 issues, the 2 volumes collected in one big collection for everyone, a brilliant way for it to go out, and absolutely going to be backing it and making sure to get my own copy of it. It's which all of you should do as well, which there'll be the link is down below as well for the Zoop campaign for that. So go check it out, check out all it. However much money you got, there's options to back it and support it, and if you want just digital, the physical, if you want the, like I talked about, the collection with comics or dying the comic is there as well. Go check out and see what's there.
I would say buy a few copies just for you and your friend that you would want to let them check it out, and your mother, your father,
Yeah,
your
get
children.
exactly. It's like all your friends and family. You want to give them great gifts. You got some birthdays coming up. You need to buy presents for. Never too early to do some Christmas shopping for this year. Whatever you need to get it for, go for it.
Well, I would say that if you're a true fan of comics, you have to buy one to read, and one to bag and board,
Mm-hmm.
and then one to resell. So, I think
This
that
is
is
true. This is true. There's a way to do these things if you're a true comic fan. So there you go. You need to buy at least 3.
everyone has to buy 3. That's going to be the new tagline.
Everyone has to buy 3.
Yeah, I'll put a minimum on the Zoop listing now.
Minimum, you have to buy at least 3 of these if you want to back it. I'm sure that won't backfire anyway.
No.
But as this is the last hurrah for Midnight Western Theatre, I guess the next question is, what's next for Louis Southard then?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. I will say that I am working on a project. Well, I haven't mentioned this yet, but there's a fella who's by the name of Green Archer Comics, and he does a lot of public domain reboot series,
Okay.
and I met him at Baltimore Comic Con, and he was really keen on getting me to come in and write something for his books. So I wrote a story for him that I think is going to be split into 4 parts and released over the course of this year. It's for his series Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar, where I tell a tale about an electric car company that's their smart cars keep getting hacked and rigged to explode. Only one guy can solve that mystery. So I look for that if you're keen on supporting him. He was a great person to work with. But in terms of a true Louis Southard original, I'm working with an artist named Tyler Linaz who is he's a great artist. He's making some beautiful art, and it's an 80-page giant. I am not sure how exactly it's going to be released yet. It's still fairly early days, but it's going to be done within the year. It is. I can't say too much. I'll say it's basically a modern version of a Silver Age book, and it is. It's a one and done story. It's one of the best things I've ever written. I think it's fantastic. Everyone's been shocked with what I wrote in a good way, and I think it's going to subvert a lot of expectations and be a hell of a lot of fun. But not only that, it is the first time I am being allowed to play with other creators' characters.
Oh.
Some of which are iconic. I'll say that. So I from the like a good chunk of characters and more added to the ranks from, let's say, the past 40 years of creator-owned super and super adjacent comic books. I am thrilled and shocked by some of the people who have agreed to let me play with their toys. So Yeah, it's super excited. It's super cool. The fanboy in me is just geeking out over like what we're making.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
hope, hopefully I will get that to people soon. And when it is time, you'll know. You'll know. So be sure to follow me online at Louis Southard or at Louis J Southard to learn more about that project.
Yeah,
And
I'll
any
put
other
those social
projects.
links down below as well so you can keep up to date with Lewis and all of that. And whenever that starts to come out and we start to hear news of it, I guarantee you'll hear about it here on the channel as well. We are very likely going to be talking about it and hopefully even talking to Lewis again about it when we can actually go in depth into it. But Lewis, thank you so much for taking your evening to come and sit and chat with me about all of this. It's been an absolute pleasure. The near hour that we've been sitting recording and the near hour we sat before we started recording just talking crap about everything. You almost had a totally different show, folks, because it took us so long to actually get started. It's been a while before we've caught up, apparently. But it's been an absolute pleasure, sir. Thank you so much for joining us again.
It's been an honor to be a frequent guest on the show. I'm so happy to be here when it's undergone this big resurrection. I'm glad I could be a little footnote in the history of this channel. And as we rise together, I couldn't think of a better person to share it with. So thank you so much for consistently having me back and supporting my show, and thank you or supporting your show, my work. And no, this is my show now. I bought it.
Wow, we just took over. Damn.
Yeah, hostile takeover. And for any supporters who watch and support our work, like I'm so incredibly grateful for everyone and for you and your team's support as well. It's really special.
Oh, thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it, sir. But folks, that's it for us for today. I hope you all have an absolutely amazing week. Make sure you go and check out the Zoop campaign down below. Go and back Midnight Western Theatre, the complete collection, for yourself, and go follow Lewis and all of his socials. All of the links for that will be down below. But that's it for us. It's a good week to be a geek. Take care. We'll see you all next time. Peace.